stories that I wanted to start with to take a quick look back at the Seth Rich story, because there are some developments going on the Seth Rich story right now. Now, if you remember, Seth Rich was that DNC staffer who was shot about 4:30 in the morning in Washington, D.C., shot in the back, and they called it a robbery. That's how they classified it. The only problem was that they didn't take his phone or his wallet or anything from him that anybody knew about. Now, maybe they took a thumb drive with the Hillary Clinton emails on it. We don't know that, but there's a lot of people, including Bill Benny. We've told you about him before on this show, former NSA analyst and a very high-level coder and someone who developed essentially the surveillance technology that we applied to the U.S. domestically post 9/11. He was Edward Snowden before there was an Edward Snowden, because he resigned in protest when they turned those surveillance systems on the United States on American citizens after 9/11. And he came out, and for a lot of reasons, he analyzed the data and said this wasn't data that was stolen over the internet by Russian hackers. This was something that was copied directly from the computer onto a thumb drive. And, of course, we remember Julian Assange indicated that maybe Seth Rich was a WikiLeaks source, and that certainly the Hillary Clinton emails did not come from the Russians. Of course, the powers that be want you to believe everything bad was done by the Russians. But in any event, Seth Rich was killed in Washington, D.C. in a very suspicious fashion, and there have been some attorneys who have sued the government to try to obtain the records that the government has on Seth Rich's laptop. A judge in Texas, a federal judge in Texas, ruled that the FBI had not complied with those FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests, and he says the court finds the FBI improperly withheld this information under FOIA, and the court is thus authorized to order its production. Now, this was entered on September 29th of this year, and they found that the government shall produce the information it possesses related to Seth Rich's laptop and responsive to plaintiff's FOIA request within 14 days of the date of this order. But do you think that the FBI actually did that, the FBI and the Department of Justice? No, of course not. They never comply with a court order that they don't like, right? They just do what they want to do. So now they've asked for more time to respond to the order. The attorney on the case, Ty Clevenger, writes a little blog that I was reading about this, and he said that basically they're going to file a motion for reconsideration, although he's unclear exactly what needs to be reconsidered with respect to this particular issue. But the point is they're going to find any reason to delay the production of these materials from the Seth Rich laptop. And you have to ask yourself why. And even Ty Clevenger, at the end of his little blog, mentions that he finds an old rule applies, which was a rule that he knew from back when he was a reporter, a newspaper reporter, almost 30 years ago. He says, people with nothing to hide don't try to hide nothing. And I thought that was interesting, although I don't particularly agree with that phrasing. You know, it is true that the FBI is taking extraordinary steps not to produce this material on Seth Rich's laptop. Now, I read the order. It's a lengthy order. I read the analysis. It's too detailed to get into here on the air, but suffice it to say, the judge basically found the FBI had no basis, even said at one point pointedly the FBI could cite no case law in support of its position that the reason that it wouldn't give up the Seth Rich laptop was based on privacy concerns. So there was absolutely no basis for that as an exception to the FOIA law. And once again, we have the FBI just, if I could just put it bluntly, thumbing its nose at a federal judge when it gets an order that it doesn't like. So if they get an order they don't like, they don't comply with it, they move for reconsideration, they appeal up to a higher court, and they just continue that delaying and, as Ty Clevenger called it, dragging their feet process until they basically run out the clock on everybody, or they find a judge who will give them the type of order that they want.
Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And remember that we recommend that you exercise your brain at least once a week.